Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 6 of the 10 a.m. Time for Champagne, Time for Limes podcast. For those of you listening, we are in a different location, so it's not in the visual side for this one. It is completely audio with it all just being nothing but that for this one. Right now, we are in a different location, just getting stuff prepared, getting stuff ready for what is coming and what is ahead for the podcast. That does include future upcoming guests, more audio, more visual stuff, just so we get a taste and a sense for what we are seeing, what we are viewing, what we enjoy, and what you enjoy as well. Any and all feedback is appreciated. Links, descriptions will be below within the link tree, as well as just hitting up the comments in every comment section possible. I am here with the gang. How are we doing, guys?
Not too bad, but for starters, we are filming this at 3 in the morning. It's been a long day, lot of changes, a lot of things we're trying to deal with, so we're making do, and we're going to get this filmed and put out for you guys.
I feel good. We had a great night. Starting at, 9 p.m.? Actually, no, it was earlier than that. It was at 6 o'clock. Starting at the gym and then heading to the bar at 9.
Yeah, for you guys had the later night than me for starting, since I've also been up 20 hours straight, keeping that roll going, but also heading up the local event where everybody was sort of at the nothing tonight, which the big thing was the promotional event for WWE SmackDown that did just take place at the Giants Center. That will also be a future episode topic as well, just also going into local arenas, venues, entertainment complexes as well, just to give everyone here a local taste into what is further out than just the venues and the breweries, but also just to give everyone a taste in more of a universal topic as well. Tonight's episode is going to focus with Troegs Brewery. It's an independent PA brewery. Right now we have different lists, different topics to go through. What's up, Caleb?
It's located in Hershey, PA.
That is correct. Thank you for that one. It is a Hershey, PA brewery local to the central PA area, and we are going to start there. As I just mentioned, different beers will be reviewed tonight. There is different lists amongst the crew, have gone on different trips, different times, so different results are going to be shared. We are going to jump right into it, and we are going to start off with the list that I have in front of me, so that way we can go through what is happening, what has been there throughout this season. This trip and this date goes back to January 20th of 2022. So the first beer on my list here that we are going to tackle is the Perpetual Darkness. It's a barley wine American brew that is done at Troegs. It's got a 9.4%, an average rating of 3.92 out of 5 on the Untappd, where it is reviewed by 1,700 different people with a 3.92. And the gang here, between the critic and the host, we both gave it the same rating at a 2.75.
2.75. Well, I gotta be honest, there's only one beer that stands out to me from Troegs. The rest, I don't quite recall why I would have rated them what I rated them. Overall, I remember why, or my thought process regarding the brewery itself and how I felt about the venue. But as far as the individual beers go, I've been there 3 times now, I believe, and honestly, I don't quite remember why I gave it what I gave it.
I'm with you there. The details and the reviews are also available on the Untappd app, saying that it's more of a blonde barley wine with grapefruit, hoppy IPA style, which I know that we aren't the biggest fan of.
Well, I mean, does everyone want to say what they're currently drinking right now?
I'm drinking Labatt's, which is my go-to.
Eh.
And Zach and I got ourselves a Naughty or Nice cold IPA. I mean, we like certain IPAs if they got the right flavor to them.
And we got this down in Virginia when we went down in late December.
Yep, Chantilly, Virginia.
Chantilly was also mentioned in episode 4 of 10 a.m. Time for Champagne, where we had our Bitter Valentine episode. We will have another episode as well covering more of their stuff, especially with the lost bet that we owe a full-out tribute, as well as a whole case that has come in the critics' way. Shout out to him for
Lucky
the
bastard.
we can go with that one for sure. Lucky, to say the least, on that bet.
Both bets. I can't believe it.
I'm with you there. It's a 9.4%, 275. That's the first beer. Next one is going to be the Dead Reckoning Porter, which has been rated by 13,900 people with an average rating of a 3.58. And we have 2 different ratings on this one. So I'm going to be a little curious. 3 badges were earned on this one. Chris did give it a 3. And I gave it a 2.
So, if I gave this a 3, that would have meant that it lived up to my standard as to what I believe it should taste like as a dark beer. And actually, I believe Troegs does dark beers very well. And if I'm not mistaken, for the other ones that I have tried that were darker in color, I did enjoy those too. So this would have been a solid beer if I would have given it a 3.
From what I remember from this trip, a lot of it for me just didn't live up to the standard and the brand name, given the strength of the name of Troegs, let alone with the definition of what a good beer is. A lot of it to me was very overhyped and overrated, which is very unfortunate for such a local and well-known spot. But the porter here just didn't do it. It didn't do it for me. It didn't hit the standards of flavor, of balance, of well-rounded support. It just didn't hit, and for that one, it was a 2 on this list. Number 3 is the Master of Pumpkins Pumpkin Yam Beer, 7.5%, and in 31,100 ratings, an average of 374.
That's high.
It is high, and for 2, we gave it way less than that. We had a 2 to my left here, for those that are listening. The critic is to my left with a lower rating of a 2. I gave it a higher rating of a 2.25 out of 5, which means it was mediocre, nothing too outstanding, nothing too far in terms of enjoyment, in terms of taste. Only reaction here so far is a pumpkin emoji that was left in the comments. Do we have anything else other than an emoji to add to the Master of Pumpkins?
So I do remember this one. This was one of the ones that the flavor was okay. And I remember distinctly I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it enough because of the time that we had it. It wasn't close to like October or Halloween, when you would typically drink like a pumpkin beer or anything that has like a pumpkin flavor to it. Stereotypically, around Halloween and October, those times. If it would have been closer to that time frame, this beer would have matched up perfectly. I probably would have rated it a little bit higher, but I enjoyed the beer itself, but wasn't feeling it in the time period that I consumed it in.
I really hope that ASMR hits in that one. If that little pump heard in the background, that was a freshly squeezed air freshener. Lime.
Lime.
For the pumpkin beer, I mean, comparing that one to other ones is really an apples to apples, and that beer from Troegs is a bad apple. It just didn't hit right compared to other pumpkin beers that have been had, let alone, yes, it is in a different time, it is a different season. That is correct, that is true. There was just more, it was more of a weedy style for what was there and in it as well. Just didn't hit right, and it really didn't work. Next on this list as well is going to be another one that is separate from our second list. It is the Passion Fruit Orange Guava Hard Seltzer. It is a hard seltzer, so it's exactly what you think it is. It's a soda water drank by college kids. That's right. There you are. Out of 146 views, so this one is relatively new, not getting the hype. Average rating of 3.64. Last rating where I had a 2.25 to a 2. It is now reversed where the critic has a 2.25 and I have a 2. It just didn't hit right.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate for a seltzer even, but that is where I have it at a 2.25.
I gave it a 2.25?
Yes, you did.
So that's kind of surprising considering what kind of a drink it was. I usually don't care for like the seltzers or the ciders or anything like that. As far as this one, I guess it must have been the flavor of the drink itself, and that must have been why I gave it the rating that I gave it.
Yeah, the one thing I remembered about this evening was the one joke where we were trying to balance what was a water to what was an actual beer, just to please the only girl in the crowd that was with us that night, just so that way it looked like it wasn't all beer, and that way it was mixed in. So that was part of it as to why, as well as just going down the list for what was available and saying, I need that for my flight, I need that for my flight, I don't need that. It was just written in and available right in the center for the event. This next beer is one that wasn't liked by two. This one is a Passion Fruit Guava Tart Ale. Out of 4,700 people, 3.58 average rating. To my left, a 1.25, and myself is a 1.5.
1.25. I think this is the one that I thought tasted like bathroom cleaner, and that's why I got quite a lower rating. It's kind of unfortunate, and nothing really sticks out to me from Troegs aside from, like I said, my opinion of the venue and how they do things out there, which I'm sure we'll discuss later on here. But yeah, I think that's the one that I just didn't care for because of the taste of it.
Yeah, like there were some of them that night where it was very bitter, and there were others where it was just mid. And it doesn't, again, like I've been saying all night, it's really unfortunate and really left a bad taste in my mouth that such a spot is just so not what we think or what seemed to be from the event and the time that was. 1.5 and 1.25 is very thumbs down for this one. And moving into the next one on this list, we actually have 2 reviews from the critic, as well as our first one from the wild card on this list. So this is the Trogan Double Bach, which is a 8.2 IPA. It's a Bach out of 106,700 reviews. The average rating, according to Untappd, which we're not affiliated or associated with, but we are going to shout them out, so that way you guys understand where we come from. That way we know what we're going back on and judging. average rating's a 3.76.
Oh, jeez.
It's
I'm close.
It's quite high. We have a average rating from 2 reviews from you, Chris, of a 3, where we have the average as of 3.76 and the wild card with a 3.75. So with the crowd, do we want to start with you? Do we want to start with you?
You go first.
I thought it was a decent beer. It was more than average. It was a decent beer. The flavor mixed well nice. I mean, this was probably back in, what was it, like July? August. Back in August. And as I can remember, it was a decent beer. It tasted like between an IPA and a lager. So I gave it 3.75.
So having it twice, my question is there a difference on trying the same beer in 2 different seasons? Or did it not matter with it being the same rating twice in a row?
So the first time I ever went to Troegs was actually with Ken, and I went with him and I decided to get the sample flight, which did not include this beer in my recollection, but this is Ken's favorite beer. So I tried it based off of him getting it. And that was like my first dive into like the darker beer spectrum. And that's when I found out that I liked them. And then I started trying more porters and stouts and other darker beers, black lagers, etc. But as far as the time period that I tried them in, it didn't really impact my rating. Because it's not one of those like flavored beers like I mentioned earlier with the pumpkin where it was like a seasonal type flavor. This one I gave it the same rating because it's not a bad beer and I do enjoy the flavor of it, but it wasn't dark enough to my liking. That's why I gave it a 3 and not the 3.75 with the rest of the crowd.
So that brings up 2 very key points to also consider thinking about going forward. 1, the name Ken. If you listen to episode 2, if not, go back and listen to it. He was in our 2nd ever episode of the podcast.
Did really well.
It absolutely did. We're gonna have him back on again for sure. One of the OGs, one of the big guys that's gonna be around, the official 4th member of the 10 a.m. Time for Champagne podcast. Number 2, the seasons as well as it not changing is pretty big. It might also come back to memory as well, or recognition and awareness, where it is such a big thing within the beer itself and within the company, and also it being a fan favorite, let it be somebody else's favorite, that it continues to have that strength. So we had a 3, we had a 3.75. I gave it a 2.75. It was better than average compared to what the other ones were there that night. And it just sits right there. Not close enough to a 3 where it's something where it's totally of a wow. But it's definitely something where it's, yes, I would have it again. Or would recommend to somebody else as to, hey, what is on the menu? First time here. What to try? Definitely first on the list would be the Trogan Double Bach. For sure on that one. So next on this list as well is going to be one that has been reviewed by everybody. The second one is going to be the Grand Coco, which is their stout. Average rating out of everyone, which is 13,600 people, is a 3.85. Between 2, it was a 3.38, with 1 giving it a 4, 1 giving it a 2.75 twice, and 1 3.
So we're kind of all over the place.
We are, and considering that yours was the lowest, and it's a favorite, considering that it's a stout, we're going to start with you as to why.
So this one all came down to the flavor. So again, this was the Grand Cacao.
Indeed it is.
This says, according to Troegs, it says, welcome to the Grand Cacao. Deliciously decadent stout is built on a foundation of rich chocolate malt, caramel malt, and roasted barley, cold steeping on Peruvian cacao nibs, and natural vanilla doubles down on the smooth Cynthia chocolate and a splash of milk sugar. Delivers a velvety, sweet, and creamy finish. We taste milk chocolate, roasty grain, hints of sweet cream. Yeah, so that refreshes my memory. I thought so, but I just wanted to confirm. I really did not feel like this beer lived up to the flavor profile that Troeg stated it would. And when I tried it, I didn't pick up on those flavors, and it just wasn't a solid beer for me. It tasted decent, but it wasn't going to make the cut to make a higher percentage out of 5 due to its lack of flavor.
Agreed, and that's going to make it 2 on that opinion. Wasn't up there, definitely wasn't in the upper half of all-time stouts either that have been experienced and drunketh and drunken throughout the history of Untappd amongst us here as the crew, and it just didn't work, and we got a 4, so you're going last.
I give it a 4 because it was one of the better stouts I've had, and it just blended well together. And like I said, it was back in August of last year, 2021, and it just blended well together, and I just liked it. Like probably an average stout I would like.
It just worked, eh?
Hey,
That's the way it be sometime. You just...
what you goes?
That's right. Different opinion, different set of attributes, different results. Next on the list was only reviewed by the 2. Not the wild card. This one is the Impending Descent, which is a Russian Imperial Stout, 9.1%. Out of 9,900, average rating of a 3.93. We have a 2.5 and a 2. I'll start on this one. It just didn't do it.
Excuse me.
At all. That does happen. Like, it just wasn't there. There just wasn't that strength. It just wasn't right. And it's really unfortunate that way for this guy here in this Russian stout. We have a 2.5 rating back to back, tried in August as well as in January for the Impending Descending here on this review for this brew.
So the key word there was strength. Usually, or typically for your imperial aged stouts or your bourbon barrel stouts or any of the beers that mix or incorporate a liquor or a liquor barrel into the brew, there's a stronger, more pronounced, and more of like almost like a harsh taste, more of an alcoholic taste to it. And I don't think that this really had that flavor profile. I remember it having like a bit of an extra taste to it. You could definitely taste that there was some alcohol to it, but it wasn't as strong as some other ones that I've tried. And I've tried quite a bit according to my Untappd profile. If this would have been a little bit stronger and lived up to its name, I probably would have rated it higher.
For sure. I mean, there's always that possibility, too. There's also always the time for it to go back to and to look forward to again. And speaking of looking forward as we continue down this list, I'm going to throw in the quick reminder to go ahead and follow the socials. They will be throughout the link tree just for the navigation for all of us, for the channel, for the group Facebook, for the Instagram, for the Snapchat. All that is there to add to get all the latest news, the latest up-to-dates. More stuff is being built for sure. More is coming down the pipeline, even in terms of those sort of projects that are being worked on. Back to the list here for the 10 a.m. TFC episode here for Troegs. Next on the list is the Perpetual IPA, which is a 7.5%. Average rating by 169,400 users is 3.8 out of 5. We have a 275 and 225s.
225s.
Yours was a 275.
Mine was a 275.
So I'm going to do yours last.
Okay.
So we are going to jump to Caleb on this one to start.
So I give it 2.5 because it was average. The mix was good. It wasn't too good. It just was an average beer to me.
With you there, I would consider that one a mid. And really nothing much more. It was just a plain IPA. It's not the strength. I know it's something that's really high in terms of quantity had amongst us. I know we keep the mind open and try them anyway, even though it is probably gonna lead to a mid result at best. There haven't been enough where it's been a total wow. It's been more of a thumbs down. So now we're gonna go to the 275.
So this being a dry hopped beer and an IPA, I believe the reason I rated it the way that I rated it was because of the taste, the flavor profile. It lived up to that taste that a typical IPA will have or should have. I mean, similar to, like I said, Zach and I are drinking the Naughty or Nice IPA by Devil's Backbone Brewing Company as we're recording this. And this has the taste that an IPA should have. There's that, it's copied throughout every IPA, but if done correctly, it makes for a solid beer. And that must have had that correct flavor profile to give it the rating that I would have given it.
With the 275, I mean, that's always possible. What are we giving the one that's currently being downed by us to? Between this Naughty or Nice and the Troegs beer that was just mentioned as the Perpetual.
I'd be willing to bet I probably gave, because I did log this on Untappd already, I probably gave this a 2.
A 2, whereas the other one was a 275.
Because that must have had more of that IPA taste in a stronger and better deliverable
A
fashion.
good IPA taste.
What is a good IPA taste?
Not too hoppy, not too bland, right in the middle.
Right in the middle. That's true. That's true. I'm also on the same rating for a 2. It's also a little bit more bitter, this one, compared to some of the other IPAs, where it just doesn't work. So, this next one, I should say, is the Blizzard of Hops IPA as well, another IPA.
It's also well known in PA at local bars in the area.
Average rating by 93,500 is a 377. Now, all three of us logged it at the same time, which, if my memory serves me right, this Blizzard of Hops was also done in episode 1 of the podcast. So we gave our reviews live in that one. So if you go back and listen to episode 1 of the pod, we all gave it the same rating of a 275. All three of us. First off, what a night. What a successful intro. Second off, was one of the better IPAs. And that was the definition of an IPA to me. But it's still not the best beer that's out there. 275.
I completely agree.
Yeah, I'd have to say if I gave it a 275, again, it must have had the correct flavor profile. And yeah, go check out that episode where we rated it live to see what we said back then. Because, to be honest, my memory's not really suiting me well. So I don't know what I would have said when I was drinking it live. But you're welcome to go watch that. And
go watch
more accurate.
Go watch all the other videos too, so you can get a good view of what we like, what we don't like, what places we like, what places we don't like. I believe episode 3 was a dislike place that we went to, and was it episode 3?
Which one?
Place for Goat.
Yeah, I don't think we've done that yet.
I thought we did.
No.
No, we
That might have
have
been
not.
Bit of Valentine.
Episode 3 was the Kelsey reference to the
Okay.
car side.
Yep,
Episode 4 was back in the studio.
that was Bit of Valentine.
That was Bitter Valentine. And then episode 5 was Pizza Boy.
Okay,
Episode 1 was
the intro.
the intro with the 6 live. And then episode 2 was with Frogs.
Okay.
So all that is also in the playlist, all on the YouTube, all there for everyone to try.
So Grateful Goat is yet to come.
I am so excited for that one to come out. Cannot
well.
wait to do a good review on a good spot. That is to come.
Good spot.
Last beer that is on my list is only reviewed by me. And that is from October 23rd, called the Dreamweaver Wheat. Not reviewed by anybody else. And this beer from Troegs was only done at Gary's bar, which that is a definite episode to come. An absolute lovely beauty of the spot.
We might have visited it tonight a little bit.
We just came back from there after a little bit of a night out to calm the mind, to celebrate the week that was,
Relieve stress.
relieving stress. Do we want to pull out the toys?
No, let's just talk about the limes.
Let's talk about the limes. So this beer here was when we tried at Gary's, and I did have it on one of maybe the best nights that I could ever remember having. Was a wheat beer. It worked for the night. It worked for the atmosphere. I gave it a much higher rating than I think the credit is given. Gave it a 3.5. The average rating was a 3.54 out of 76,800. That's the last one that is given here. It's also the lowest in terms of the percentage, the 4.8. And that is the last one on my list for Troegs Independent Brewing. I know that there is still a whole second list that we're going to dive into now for what is left from the fellas.
Before we do, I think it'd be a good point to stop and review like the venue in general, like what our thoughts are, and if people are planning on going in the future, what we could tell them or what they could prepare for or expect when they go there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and we will do that. Let's start with the location. So it is located right off of Hershey Park Drive. Address will be there. Website will be there as well in our description, just so everyone can see what we're talking about, where it is. How does it... With where it is, what do we think? Location-wise, convenience.
Well, it depends which direction you're coming from. Hershey Park Drive is very occupied, especially during the season of the park being open.
Which is most likely April to about beginning of January.
So you have to be very careful pulling in and pulling out of there because the high traffic volume. But it's not bad once you get down there into their parking area. They have plenty of parking, plenty of up front parking if you're handicapped or you need a closer spot. And then there's tons of parking a little bit farther away from the building, but not excessively far. Yeah, location's good, I think. My only complaint is once you get into Troegs. So, as I stated earlier, I was there a couple times, and I was there before this whole virus started and everything with that happened the way it did. And I went in, sat down, and a waitress came over, took our orders, took our beer orders, and then brought everything over to us, and then when we were done, we paid, and then left, like a normal restaurant. Now I don't know if because of COVID they changed things, or if the restaurant themselves just decided because of the lack of staffing, the staffing shortages that everyone's experiencing, or what the case may be. But now, when you go in, you have to get everything yourself. So you'll go up to the bar, you'll order what you want, then you bring it back to your table or booth or wherever you're sitting. And then as far as food goes, I can't really say that this is a food place.
It's more of a beer place.
Yeah, of course. But the food was decent for what they had, not very many options, but that's the same concept. You go over, you'll get what you want, and then bring it back to your table. If you're hungry, I'd recommend eating beforehand, but if you're just going for the beer, you'll have a good time. Unfortunately,
good.
Fortunately, none of us have done the tour there yet, so maybe that'll be a follow-up episode somewhere down the line, but they do also offer a tour of their brewery.
Location is pretty good. Coming from where I am currently living, it's about 10-15 minutes. It's just a pop off the Hershey Park Drive. Parking's not bad. A lot of space. Even if it's busy, like when I went, it was pretty. I think it was a little more than average attendance. But everything was quick and all that. The location's nice. The area in the summer is nice. Late summer's nice. It's still warm, so you can still dress up kind of relaxed and all that. They have AC in there, which is nice. It was what I liked.
So this is where I am going to disagree with both of you. I think that the location is very off and very away from everything else, depending on what way you come in. If you're going the way where you're passing everything, it's gonna look like, oh, it's away from everything else, whereas if you're coming the other way in, depends on your route, it's gonna be very, oh, there it is. It's in front of everything else. Where if you're coming in from, say, from 743 or 81, where it's coming into the area of Hershey, that it's just sort of the beginning point. Where if you're coming in from Harrisburg or from 39 or from 322, it's gonna be, oh, it's out of the way, it's at the other end, have to cross through all this effort to pass the big areas and what really makes Hershey its own thing, where it's just there. Also, parking and entering as well, it's very uneasy, because you have to warn beforehand, and cold traffic in other lanes if you're gonna cut in. Especially if you're coming from one or both directions.
Coming from the west is a lot easier than coming from the east.
It's a lot easier that direction, but at the same time you're then cutting over 2 lanes of traffic. Whereas in the other lane there's not that sort of free lane to cut in where you have to merge in from the far right lane instead of there being a third lane. If there was a third lane on that side, it would be a lot easier and there would be a lot better review. That's also not necessarily Troegs' fault. That's also the layout of the road and the way that goes in the area. Parking itself, it is one of the most spacious and larger parking lots that a brewery has to offer. Really thought that there was a lot of spread between... It almost looked like 2 different types of parking lots. Whereas there was a crowd that was closer to the front where there was also the loading dock. And then a whole other side where it was just parking and also 1 or 2 company vehicles that were there as well. Food, I also have to say that I do agree on this point. Where it just isn't that spot. If you're thinking you're going to the brewery and going, yes, I want a meal... No, you have the wrong idea. This isn't that sort of spot. It's also going to be much more beneficial for your pocket to go elsewhere before going for food. If you're going for beer, great. Hang out, relax, lot of space, lot of social opportunities, given the different types of seating and options that are in the venue space that there is. Let alone that there's the bar stools, there's the tables, there's also wider tables for bigger groups that do come in and socialize and that are there. There's also the whole tour that was mentioned by the critic here earlier in his segment. That will definitely be a follow-up. It's also been something that has yet to be done, and that is a desire to do and to come back and do a part 2 of for the podcast and just for the reaction and to see the sort of hands-on experience for the take of the brewing process of making the beer, but also at the same time just seeing it, soaking it up, and maybe getting ideas for more thoughts and ambitions and action on the team end here as well. I don't know if you guys have a response to what I said, because I know that's a lot and a little bit of negativity. There's a lot of strength in terms of the Hershey organization and that sort of township area as well, but yet that sort of structure is there.
I mean, it kind of is out of the way. I agree with you. My bad.
I thought that was a bug. Keep going.
I agree with you. It's kind of out of the way for either direction. But you said it. You said most of the stuff that we agreed with, the parking and all that. But we all have our own opinions, and would kind of owed that and all that.
Agreed.
I was going to say your review is fair. For us who live nearby or live around here, we know where it's at, so it's easier to find. But I could see how you could completely drive right past it. And actually, that I did overlook that. Their sign is rather small for the entranceway onto Troegs.
And it's kind of hidden. It's like back behind everything, so it's kind of hidden.
There's like a tree that blocks it. There was a giant sign on the building, if I'm not mistaken, but that is fair. You could easily drive past it if you don't know what you're looking for. Food-wise, again, I'm sticking with what I said. It is fair that it's better for your pocket if you go somewhere else beforehand if you just want to get something light while you drink your beer. That's what I do. That's what I'd recommend. That's what I'd highly recommend, actually. But right next door is you got good old Red Robin.
That's right.
Red Robin, if you'd like to sponsor the podcast, I've given you a lot of money over the years, and so has Zach.
You also have Manny Rose in downtown Hershey, Devon's, Houlihan's,
there's
Jersey Mike's,
Wendy's.
Overall, there's plenty of food options nearby to
get
what you want before you go over there.
Maybe get coffee before or after from Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks.
That's true. Also, to sort of backtrack on that take as well, if you want the full overall experience, go ahead and throw your money at them. I don't see why not to not support a Pennsylvania Independent Brewing Company. If you want the full experience to try what actually is the food there, to try the dessert there as well, go ahead, do it. There's no such thing as a no when it comes to a brewery. There's so much that's there to offer.
Wow.
Absolutely go through with it.
There is a no.
No. Limes.
We've already discussed our no.
That is very
Multiple
true.
times.
Absolutely. They've already been buried. More than enough. And not enough at the same time. Liquid Noise sucks. So we have the second list left to go through. Wow, did I skip that one twice. So I am going to let the guys here finish up what is left of it. I will let them carry away in terms of this review.
So, one of us gave it a 4, and one of us gave it a 3.5. Clinic gave it a 3.5.
What is this?
This is the Bourbon Barrel Aged Impending Descent Stout.
So with this one we've already discussed.
Did we?
Yep. This is the one that I said.
No, this is a different one.
This is a different Imperial?
Yeah. Because the host with the most didn't have it.
I did not. It's a 12%er. It was done in August on the separate trip that was not done. An average rating of a 4
Well then,
with the 1.4K as in 1,400 people. You gave it a 3.5.
the fact that I would have given it a 3.5 then means that it would have had that balance of being a stronger beer because of it being inside of a bourbon barrel and then aged in there, but at the same time also having that beer taste and the taste that would come with a what is this? This was a stout, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Along
Yep.
with the flavor of a stout. So they must have made that well, and it was, it must have been very well done. I can't say that it stands out to me though.
For me, I gave it a 4 because the bourbon barrel kind of gave it more flavor. And it was more of a decent stout than what I normally give a stout. And it was just overall pretty good.
Yeah, I mean that one's the one of many that was done in August. So the memory might be a little different. Second one is I can't read it. The Field Study IPA, which was also done in August. This one's not on my list. It's a 6.2%. Average rating by the crowd is a 3.8 out of 31,400 people. We have a 2.5 and a 3.5. It is an IPA.
I gave it a 3.5 because, as you know, I pretty much like IPAs. And it's a decent IPA. It's not the worst. It's not the best. It's not in the middle. It's a little more. And it's just a nice blend.
So once again, the flavor was there, but unfortunately it wasn't there enough to the point that I would have given it a higher rating according to my specific taste and what I'm looking for in the IPAs that I have tried.
Absolutely. That is always there as well. Next is the... That's actually maybe my favorite name. The Freaky Peach. Which is a sour. Which sounds like it's a summer beer.
Summer, early fall.
Average rating by 6,600 people from Untappd is a 389. And we have 2 2.75s.
So I believe this is one of the ones that I actually did like, and it had a really good flavor. It had that peach flavor there. So that's why I gave it the rating that I did.
Okay.
I gave it was a little better than average, but it wasn't average. It had a nice blend, and it's just pretty much a little more than average beer to me.
I mean, yeah, there's always something between average and what one likes and what one doesn't like. This next one is the Haze Charmer, which is a pale ale, New England hazy style. Out of 28,700 people, a 3.74 average. We have a 2.5 and a 4.5, which is strongly high, and maybe the highest rating so far for a beer at Troegs. The 4.5 was given by the wild card. Maybe to be expected for an IPA.
I mean, it was a decent blend. I know the critics, significant other had got it, and she liked it. And like I said, IPAs are one of my go-tos, other than Pilsners and, what else?
IPAs.
IPA.
Always an IPA.
Yeah.
For
most
the wild
likely an
card.
IPA is what I go for. It was a decent IPA and a nice blend, not too hoppy, and all that.
I will say, as you finish your yawn, that is the first time we've actually mentioned that name. Out of 6 episodes, we've gotten 48 minutes in for the first name drop of that one. Anyway, you gave it a 2.5.
I gave it a 2.5 because, I mean, it must not have had that flavor that I was looking for. I mean, one thing I've learned from this is I think I need to start documenting why I like something or why I don't like something on Untappd. That way I can reference it later when we go back and do these things here. Because now, like, I'm drawing a blank on a lot of these because none of them stood out in a good way.
And it's been a while.
And clearly they must not have stood out in a bad way either, unlike some other places. Like, for example, there's a beer that I recently had in another place, and in the comment area I put no.
That's yet to come.
And I remember that was just horrendous. And I'll never forget that one. So I need to start documenting.
Nice.
Wow. I will never forget that comment.
Geez.
1.
No.
2. Limes.
Nice.
So it might also be a little fuzzy since it was in August and we are reviewing it now in February, given that it's almost March. So
About
there's
6
also
months.
a lot of time. I know that a lot of our recent episodes and most of our episodes in our lifetime here so far, it has been fairly recent stuff where we can go back and say, yes, I've had it. Yes, I remember. But also with going back to a little bit more of the past where we haven't had that, it is going to most definitely be harder to come back on and recollect, especially from it being, 6+ months ago?
At least 6 months.
Between February and August, let it be almost March. So the next one on the list is the Lucky Holler Hazy IPA, which we got a 2.5, a 4.5 again. You are on some. And then out of 18,800 followers and users, average rating is a 385. So between the two of you, it's coming closer to the average, with the 2.5 being way down. Let's start with the 4.5.
Okay. Like last time, it was good, a nice mixture, not too hoppy, and it just had a nice blend.
Pockets.
9.
Well, all I gotta say is, if you're gonna make IPAs, and all of them just taste the same, they pretty much just copy each other, and they're trying to taste just like the last one. Find a good one that everyone likes, find a flavor that everyone likes, and that's rated very well, and then just imitate that to the best of your ability. Because the IPA or the Indian Pale Ale, it's supposed to taste the same just like the last. There's nothing really unique or significant about it. It's just that specific flavor that people look
It all
for.
depends on the flavor that they want to give it to.
It's that flavor that people look for, and it's a specific kind of flavor. So the reason I would have given this that rating is because, again, it didn't have that specific flavor.
Also, the big argument as well with IPAs, let it alone be an Indian Pale Ale or a Hazy or a New England, is they're all relatively similar. It just seems like the name changes it to make the style different, but there's not really a different rule where if it's going to be just the same flavor, where there's no variety from an outside of that. Maybe it's a idea to break the rules and go with something whereas, please do not climb over me.
It's a lime color.
Lime. Really thought that it was gonna happen. Where that may be something that may not have to be done by a company, or it be done by us. There's always that idea. Just saying, I wasn't expecting a pause on that one. Next is the Raspberry Lime Tart Ale. Lime. Which looks like it's a sour, fruited beer. 4.5% out of 2,800 people. Average ratings of 3.74. We have a 2 and a 3. So somebody doesn't like the lime and somebody liked the lime.
A 2 and a 3.
You give it a 2 there, bud.
Then you can go first.
Okay. I give it a 3 because it was a little slightly better than average.
Somebody
But
likes lime.
it wasn't too much of a good beer. And it just didn't really go down the gullet that well.
Down the gullet of lime. So, lime hater, why a 2 on the lime?
So I ultimately would have picked up this glass and then put it in my mouth. And it would have tasted like something that deserves a 2. It did not stand out to me in any way, shape, or form, and I, again, don't recall much about it. But a 2 for me is like getting there in terms of tasting good.
I mean, a 2 is your definition of that, and it sounds like it's coming through clear in terms of that response. So, next is what in the world? It's got numbers. Scratch 441 dry hopped Pilsner, no longer in production. So this guy is Gonzo, which
That's weird.
I'm not sure if we're gonna have a thumbs up or a thumbs down, because out of 250 people, a 397 review, and we have a 5. We have a 5.0 rating on this guy versus a 1.5.
You can go first.
So I am going to start with Chris and why you gave it such a porous rating to Mr. Perfect after that. Holy smokes.
Well, it was discontinued for a reason.
Wow!
Of course you say that.
I gave it a 1 because, I mean, let's be fair and give it a benefit of the doubt. It was not a .25, meaning it was just a tad above being not horrendous.
Tad, that's more than a tad there, bud.
That is bold.
So I just didn't care for it. Was not good. Got a 1, a little bit better than .25. But I mean, as we said, what we're drinking earlier, he's drinking a Labatt, which is a Pilsner, so he tends to lean towards that anyways. But as for me, I didn't care for it. And, I mean, it speaks for itself that they just decided, you know, we're not making this anymore.
I gave it a 5 because, one, like we have said in the beginning, I'm drinking a Pilsner, which is more of a Canadian brew. Limeade. And because of my father and playing hockey and all that, he's fond of Pilsners and fruity beers and all that. And Pilsners just go down my palate a lot more and all that. And Pilsner, and I just love a good Pilsner.
So, I'm not sure how often we have ever rated a 5 ever in history, let alone it's a first time I think it's ever been a discontinued beer. So the first question and the last question on a 5.0 category is it better or worse than a Miller Lite? Because a Miller Lite is a 5.
For you?
If you went back and listened to our pod history, I did rate Miller Lite as a 5.
It's better than Miller Lite.
Oh, you're wrong. If it's discontinued, it's gone for a reason.
Critic, what do you say? Better or worse than Miller Lite?
I say it's terrible. I'd rather take the Miller Lite.
Of course you would.
Miller Lite.
The customers have spoken, and that's why they decided, you know what, we're not making this
But it
anymore.
might not be the customers, it might just be the brewing company itself.
It might be money.
Could be.
So next is the Sunshine
Lime.
Pills. Lime. It's a German, so obviously one is going to have it higher than the other from Ancestry.com/brew/lime. Out of 70,200 fans, we're going with a 3.44, though we have a 3.5 and a 4.
I give it a 4 because, obviously, my ancestry is all Pennsylvania Dutch, which is mainly German, and I just like German beer because it's a good taste. It's easy on the taste and all that.
Hi, buddy.
Aye, lime.
Sock. We are falling off the rails. It's an hour in and it's past 4. So we are killing it here this morning. Oh my gosh, he almost hit me with a sock. Pockets.
So, I'd like to be a little more insightful here if I could.
It's worded.
So
What?
it says for this, it takes the right ingredients, people, and processes to nail the complex balance of two-row barley, zesty Saz hops, and lager yeast. Secondary fermentation creates natural carbonation that delivers soft notes of fresh-cut straw and flowering herbs. In the end, this bright and refreshingly clean American craft Pilsner is our go-to when the sun is shining and makes us happy when skies are gray. We taste bright citrus, flowering herbs, and honeyed biscuit.
So,
That's
I'm
a
guessing
lot.
I was wrong in that Pilsner is a Canadian brew. It's more of a German brew, because they know what's going on over there.
I guess I just didn't care for it, and that's why I gave it what I gave it.
Copy paste.
But I can't add to as why that was, just from reading the description.
So they're actually.
I did give a rating. Like a description. You did give a description when you type on.
Yeah, I know. I just read it.
I
just read it. You
What?
never had it.
I never had it?
No.
Oh, so you were the one that had it.
No.
Oh, shit.
Then Caleb's the only one that had it.
Correct.
Well,
So
then I don't rate this.
I guess I'm the only one that had it. I don't know where I had it, but...
So you had it August.
And I tagged him in it.
You did.
I guess he
And
didn't
Chris
try it.
did not have it.
It was that bad, I didn't want it.
That is great. So that actually does conclude both of our lists. Pockets. So that does conclude both of our lists. So it sounded like we've had almost 24 different
Limes.
types of lime brews combined between the three of us on this episode. So I'm going to leave the final question that has been asked out of every single episode by the team here, by the fam. Do you go back again?
Critic?
Do I go back again?
Yes. Would you go back to Troegs again? Would you go with other people? Would you recommend it to... Oh, nice. Do you recommend it for others to go to and to try? Or is it a place where you go, I'd rather get this, pick it up, and go home?
So, I would go back again, but as far as food and everything, it's not my top priority. I would go somewhere else before going there. But I would go with friends, and I look forward to eventually doing the tour, so we can later talk about that and see how that is and how it compares to the other tours we've done.
I would go back for the beers I've liked very well. As you can tell in the beginning in the earlier parts of this video, that I like Pilsners, which is more a German brew than a Canadian brew, And I would love to do a tour just to see how they make beer compared to other breweries and other distilleries and all that in the good state of PA.
So this spot, it's very big. It's well known. It's the first and maybe only true area spot where it's got the recognition and the name, where it's not only known to be sold at its own spot, but also to be at other bars, other locations around the area. Hours away carries it. Local stores carry it. Convenience stores carry it, depending on where you're at. Just because of the tour itself, I am not willing to say no until that part is done. I am not willing to say yes, because it's sounding from the different times of year, there is different opportunity to try more. Just because of how mid it has been in the first trip out for myself, I think I have to go back at a different time of the year to give a more confident and affirmative answer on this spot.
Like late spring, early summer.
Just because of the history and what has been shown between the two lists, and there being different beer that is available at different times of the year. It might be because it's winter, it might not be fair to give it a thumbs down, where that's where I am leaning towards, but I don't want to say that, especially with it being one of the most local and closest spots for all of us here in the area. I want to go back and give it the absolute best chance before it's an affirmative and confident no. So that is going to do it for episode 6, the Lime episode, the F episode in
Lime.
The Lime in Studio 2F. More is coming, more is down the pipeline. Please go ahead, follow, like, share, subscribe, share it. Do any of us here have anything else that we would like to comment and say to the people?
No.
Just more to come, and please keep listening and following and keep up to date.
Well said. That is going to do it. Now it's time for bed. Peace.
Yo!